We're here to do our end of year wrap up of our research, and I have a few questions for you. Okay, the first one is, can you tell me about maybe some of the strengths that I displayed during this process?
Absolutely. First of all, I think your organizational skills in implementing it with the staff and being able to describe the program and really getting the steps to the process going was one of your strengths, and that's always been one of your strengths is organization and being able to relate with people. And that second thing that I think you do really well is in getting folks to do things that are outside their comfort level. You show lots of compassion and consideration and give them that true feeling that you are in this with them and that it's a true partnership.
Thank you. Thanks, I appreciate that. The next question is, what successes or benefits for students did you see through this process?
Well, I think as we've talked about, anytime you do a research project that's so short in nature, when we look at it's just a year long, it's once you get the school year going and you truly start implementing it, you have various levels of implementation from the staff standpoint that we have to work through. So I think when you look at the data, if you were trying to determine if it was a successful year or not, you're going to see the data's kind of all over the place, but that's because the implementation was all over the place. I think the fact that we have some areas of success where we haven't had success before is proof that once we implement it with fidelity and that we have a solid practice in place for not only professional learning communities, but that identifying student needs and addressing those needs with effective instructional practices, I think we're going to see even greater gains. So I think that's a success is that we saw some improvement because we haven't seen improvement before. This was an area of weakness for us.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the future holds with that. And the last question is, what recommendations for next steps or for growth do you have for me? Because I'm always curious about them.
Well, and I think it's a team growth, not just a growth for you, but a growth for our team, is that we have in a building of 100 staff members and 900 children, there's a lot going on, and we tend to, as we dig deeper into one area of what we perceive as a weakness, we find all these things that we need to address, and for us, we need to hone in on what is the thing that's going to have the greatest impact. We've talked before about all the things we've implemented in the last 3 years.
Right.
We really need to look at what do we expect to see pervasively across the building at this point, and what's that one next step, so that we tend to chase a lot of squirrels.
Yeah.
Because they come up, and then when as you go through it and you try to get to the root cause of something, you realize there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, not just this one thing. But we've got to, I think we as a team have to stop saying, we got to address all of this, and really think about the one thing that's going to make improvement, realizing that it may be 3 or 4 years before we have that whole piece figured out.
So kind of the same process we took the teachers through was identifying those pivotal standards and focusing on those maybe.
What's the one thing that's going to have the greatest impact for all of our staff? Yeah, so I think that's a growth for us, is to not come in and try to change the world in 1 year, but to pick out the things that are the biggest impact for students.
Well, I agree, and I want to thank you again for the wonderful experience that you've given me, and I could not have made it through this year of research without you and your support and your guidance and advice, so thank you.
It's been a great year.